This is Ross Feingold. We're back on Taiwan Hashtag, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan, hosted by Storm Media. Party on! Yes, why are we saying party on? Because we're talking about seats in the Legislative Yuan, and now we have many parties seeking seats. Traditionally, the two largest parties in Taiwan during its democracy are the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, and the Kuomintang, the KMT. But over recent elections, there's been a fracturing. We have more parties seeking seats. What is the makeup of the Legislative Yuan? 113 seats, 73 from single-member constituencies, 64 from the party list, and that's what we'll be focusing on in this program. 6 seats for Taiwan's indigenous communities, elected in 2 districts where it's the top 3 in each district. As I said, the constituency seat 73, that is by the highest vote getter, none of those funky formulas that you see in other countries. In the non-constituency seats, 64, how do you get in? You need 5% of the vote total off of the party list. Let's break that down a bit. 2016, the most recent presidential and legislative election, they both have 4-year terms. The dates are not exactly identical of their term of office, but the election day is now the same. President Tsai Ing-wen, she won the election with 6.9 million votes, about 56%. In the constituency seats, the Democratic Progressive Party of President Tsai Ing-wen won about 5.4 million and 49 seats. In the non-constituency seats, about the same vote total. It was good for 18 seats. The Kuomintang, 3.8 million votes in the presidential election. Remember, 6.9 for Tsai Ing-wen, 3.8 million for the Kuomintang, the KMT. Total disaster. About 31%. In the constituency seats election, 4.6 million votes. So we see they got more votes in the constituency seats of the Legislative Yuan than their presidential candidate got. That was good for 20 seats. In the non-constituency party list vote, they only got 3.2 million votes. So it seems that for Kuomintang voters, they were happy to vote for the candidate they knew in their constituency. But for their ballot, for the party list, not very popular to vote for the Kuomintang. Only 3.2 million votes. It was good for about 11 seats. It was about 27% of the total. People First Party of perennial presidential candidate James Song Kuo-yu. About 13% in the presidential election for James Song, 1.6 million votes. In the non-constituency seats, a little less than 800,000. That was good for 6.5% of the party list vote, 3 seats. The New Power Party, they were the big shock in 2016. They won 750,000 roughly seats on the party list. That was over 6%. It was good for 2 seats. Plus, they won 3 seats in constituencies as well. So they had a total of 5 seats in the Legislative Yuan, the current Legislative Yuan. It was an amazing performance by a new political party that had only been formed within the previous 2 years before the Legislative Yuan election in 2016. Excellent output. Okay, so 6.5, 6.1 for those 2 smaller parties, the People First Party and the New Power Party. That was enough to get 3 or 2 seats in the Legislative Yuan. So it's important to get these non-constituency seats. You can't just rely on constituency seats. You could, especially if you're not the favored party, the Democratic Progressive Party, 49 constituency seats. That'll probably go down. Kuomintang, 20 constituency seats in the 2016 election. That might go up. We know that coming out of the local election last year, there was some disappointment with the DPP's governance. There's going to be a battle over the party list, probably something like we've never seen before. And one of the reasons is this new entrant, the Taiwan People's Party of Mayor Wen-je of Taipei City. Mayor Kuo was speculated to be running for president as an independent candidate. There was talk that he might team up with Cherry Guo Taiming, who originally sought the Kuomintang nomination. He lost the primary to Han Kuo-yu, mayor of Kaohsiung. And then there was all the speculation that Kuo and Kuo, or Kuo at the top of the ticket with Kuo as his vice presidential candidate. It didn't happen, but Mayor Kuo decided to form a new political party, which we've talked about on previous programs. We've had a candidate from that party on the program. Hopefully we'll have even more candidates from the TPP, the KMT, and the DPP. But Taiwan People's Party, they just announced a slate. So 34 of non-constituency seats are on the ballot or available. They have produced a full slate of candidates. So they are going hard after non-constituency seats, well, some constituency seats as well, but they are showing that we are competitive. We are fielding full slates of candidates. Some of their candidates are very well known. Some of them are from the business background. Some of them are maybe from civil society, NGO organizations, which is similar to the KMT and the DPP slates of non-constituency candidates as well. But the DPP, full slate, KMT, not a full slate. Why is that? Well, very controversial. When they announced their slate last week, a lot of people were unhappy with the Kuomintang's slate of non-constituency candidates. There's a former general who was accused of being too close to China. I know, as amazing as that sounds, a former general in the military here in Taiwan, now a Kuomintang politician, he went to China a few years ago to attend an event, and he was pictured standing up when the Chinese national anthem was played. People in Taiwan said, how could you do that? You're a retired general. You're supposed to defend Taiwan, stand up for the Republic of China, and then you go to an event in China where they play the anthem, and you stand at attention. Well, he's tried to explain that as, I was just being respectful. So he was at the top of their slate. He's been lowered down. So he's still on the towards the top. He's probably going to get in to the Legislative Yuan, which will create an interesting dynamic when it comes to national security issues, given that he went to China and stood at attention while the national anthem was played. On the other hand, he is an expert in military affairs, having served as a general. Den-yih, the party chairman, put himself on the list. This was very controversial. People said, well, that sounds like, or looks like self-dealing, Mr. Wu. How could you put yourself on the party list, and one of the safer ones, right? You put yourself towards the top to ensure that you will get a seat. So he's dropped his number down a bit. We don't know if he'll actually get into the Legislative Yuan off the party list, but he's on there. Other controversial candidates is a politician who used to be a legislator. His name was Kuo-yu. Also very controversial because he is a very outspoken supporter of Taiwan's unification with China sometime in the future. So he was on the party list, and immediately there were many, many people who said, oh my gosh, Chairman Wu Den-yih, what are you thinking? When we have Taiwan and the DPP campaigning on Taiwan identity, campaigning on the threat from China. First, you got this general who went to China and stood at attention when the Chinese national anthem was played. Then you got Kuo-yu, this former legislator who's outspoken about long-term unification of China and Taiwan. This is not going to go down well with the voters. So within a few hours, he was out. He either was forced out or he saw what was happening and he resigned. Anyway, he said, I don't want this, I'm out. So he was eventually removed from the list. Another candidate apparently didn't even show up for the vetting meeting with the central committee of the party where you're supposed to introduce yourself and say, here's who I am, here's why you should vote to include me. So he dropped out. Another candidate got so many no votes, it wasn't enough to formally disqualify her, but she got so many no votes from the central committee, she said, you know what, I'm out of here too, because clearly I don't have the sufficient support of the party leadership to be on the party list. So the Kuomintang isn't even fielding a full slate of 34 candidates. Not that they would win 34, or any party could win 34. At most, you're looking at 10, 15, in a great election, 20, like the DPP had in 2016. Kuomintang, maybe 10 to 15. But they also threw out one of their incumbents, Jason Yuan, a very popular legislator who was very outspoken, was a leader in the vote for marriage equality in the Legislative Yuan. He had championed legislation. Also very well known for his advocacy for Taiwan's technology industry, and that gets him a lot of support, not based on China-Taiwan identity issues, just because people say this guy understands a really important industry for Taiwan's economy. But it looks like he may have been punished for his support for marriage equality because he was excluded from the party list. He's currently a party list legislator. It was too late to go run in a constituency, and he seems not to have patched up things with the party leadership over his vote for marriage equality back in May. So he was off the list. So we see that the Kuomintang doesn't seem to really have the pulse of the voters when it comes to selecting its party list candidates. How do we know that for sure? Well, very interesting. The vice presidential candidate for the Kuomintang, Simon Zhang, he publicly said that the party list is selected by the party bigwigs, party central, party chairman Wu Den-yih. It's disappointing. Now, if your vice presidential candidate is telling you that it's a disappointment, maybe he's right, because he's been campaigning for Han Kuo-yu for several months as a policy advisor and more recently as the vice presidential nominee. And he's worried that it could impact the votes for Han and himself at the top of the ticket. And from the data we looked at just before, it's hard to say because, again, last time the Kuomintang's presidential candidate did so poorly, 3.8 million votes, and the Kuomintang only got 3.2 million votes in the non-constituency. So it's hard to assess how one impacts the other because, again, the top of the ticket still got more votes than the non-constituency, the party list votes. But of course, he's worried about all this negative media attention. Kuomintang supporters going on the internet, going on Facebook saying, oh my gosh, this party list is awful. The media, of course, very critical. The DPP, this is a gift for the DPP. They got the general who went to China. You had Kuo-yu, who's in favor of unification with China sometime in the future and very outspoken on TV about that. Some of the other picks that may have had similar political positions in the past. It's something for the DPP to criticize. And yes, they've been doing that. They've been holding press conferences over the last few days, ever since the Kuomintang finalized this list, to say, look how bad these non-constituency candidates selected by the Kuomintang are. So to resolve that, the Kuomintang has already brought in some new people or some old people. For example, Yuan, a guy named Alex Tsai, a very effective politician. He's come back into party leadership in the last couple of days to try and fix these problems, not just on the Legislative Yuan side, but for the party, they hope, with the presidential ticket as well, which is lagging in the polls. Depending on the poll, we're looking at a 10 to 15% deficit for Han Kuo-yu and Simon Zhang behind the Tsai Ing-wen, Lai Ching-te, William Lai ticket. Top of the ticket, how could it impact? Remains to be seen. Taiwan People's Party of America, no presidential candidate, but a full slate of Legislative Yuan candidates. Some of the polls have them at about 10%. It's going to be enough for seats in the Legislative Yuan. And then the other parties like the New Power Party, the People First Party, they've also fielded slates of candidates as well. Again, they won last time, over 6% of the vote. It was good enough to get them seats. So what kind of Legislative Yuan are we going to have? Very difficult. It's very difficult to poll how people are going to vote on the party list. We see that the constituency versus the non-constituency vote totals can vary significantly, as it did for the Kuomintang last time. This is something to watch very closely over the coming weeks. What will be the result in the Legislative Yuan? I'm Ross Feingold, and you've been watching Taiwan Hashtag, hosted by Storm Media.